My sister-in-law is making claims that she knows my secret, and I don't understand my sister-in-law. 30 is my brother's. 29 wife. We live on opposite sides of the country, and my brother and I aren't that close, so I'd say that we don't know each other very well. We see each other at family gatherings maybe a few times a year, and she's always come off as a very average kind of quiet guy. Around 2 months ago, I received a text from her out of the blue. It wasn't a checkup on me or asking how I'm doing. The message said she's aware of what's going on, but that there was no need for me to worry, and she'd keep it hush. Hush, I wrote a quick message back, asking what on earth she meant. But all I received back was another assurance that I had nothing to worry about, and that she was on my side. At that point I gave up and assumed it was some weird joke, even though my sister-in-law has always been pretty serious recently. I was in a Zoom call with my parents, and the first thing my brother asked when he saw me was, "Are you going to tell everyone the truth? Or just..." My wife, obviously. I was confused, and I mentioned the text message sister-in-law sent me. But my brother still seemed angry at me, and I have no idea why. The next day, I called up my sister-in-law and asked her what the hell is going on with this. She was very cagey on the phone and just kept repeating rhetorical questions back at me like, "Do you know what's going on?" I'll admit that I lost my temper at one point and snapped at her since she wasn't giving me any answers. That was a bad idea. Since this morning I got a new text from sister-in-law telling me that she tried to do me a favor that I clearly don't appreciate. She mentioned, "We'll see what happens this weekend," which is the next time we're all meeting for a late Thanksgiving. Honestly, I'm terrified. The thing is, I have no idea what secret my sister-in-law could possibly be talking about. I don't live a very exciting life, and I mostly keep to myself. There's a still part of me that's scared of whatever truth she says she's about to reveal. Even though I don't think I've done anything wrong, what do? You can now check if there is a part 2 by pressing Sharon Moore. Welcome back. This is the second part of my mysterious story. In the first episode, we discussed the cryptic messages from my sister-in-law that left me feeling confused and uneasy. Today, I'll share what happened in the days leading up to the Thanksgiving gathering, which might reveal everything. A few days before Thanksgiving, I was preparing with mixed emotions. While I usually looked forward to family gatherings, this time was different. I was worried my sister-in-law might reveal the so-called secret in front of everyone. I kept replaying her messages in my mind, trying to find clues, but to no avail. On the day of the gathering, the weather was gloomy, as if setting the stage for what was about to unfold. I arrived early at my parents' house to help with dinner preparations. Family members arrived one by one, greeting each other warmly, but I could feel a subtle tension in the air. During dinner, my sister-in-law and brother kept casting significant glances my way, making my heart race with anxiety. After dinner, my sister-in-law suddenly stood up and announced she had something to say. All eyes were on her, and my palms were sweating profusely. She took a deep breath and said, "I know you're all curious, but I'm not going to reveal the secret right now. We'll talk about it later." The room erupted in murmurs, and while I felt a sense of relief, my curiosity and concern grew even more intense. In the days following the Thanksgiving dinner, I couldn't shake off the feeling of impending doom. Every time I thought about my sister-in-law's cryptic messages, my anxiety spiked. It felt like a dark cloud looming over me, and I needed to get to the bottom of this. My usual routine became overshadowed by this nagging fear of what she might reveal. I decided to take matters into my own hands and confront my sister-in-law directly. I couldn't live with this uncertainty any longer. I called her and arranged a meeting at a nearby cafe, hoping a face-to-face conversation would finally provide some clarity. When we met, she appeared calm and composed, which only added to my frustration. I was desperate for answers. "What is this all about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you know that I don't?" She sipped her coffee slowly, then looked me in the eye and said, "I came across some documents that belong to your parents. They contain information about your past, information that you might not be aware of." My heart pounded. What could she possibly have found? I pressed her for more details, but she was reluctant to divulge everything right away. "I think it's better if you discuss this with your parents," she said. "They should be the ones to tell you the whole story." Leaving the cafe, my mind was racing. What could my parents possibly be hiding from me? I decided to confront them as soon as possible. That evening, I drove to my parents' house, determined to get some answers. When I arrived, my parents were surprised to see me. I told them about the conversation with my sister-in-law and demanded to know the truth. They exchanged worried glances before my mother finally spoke. "There's something we've been meaning to tell you for a long time," she said. "But we were waiting for the right moment." As my parents began to explain, I could feel my world crumbling. They revealed that I was adopted, a fact they had kept hidden from me all these years. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My entire identity felt like a lie. I stormed out of the house, needing some space to process this bombshell. The next few days were a blur. I felt betrayed, confused, and lost. How could my parents keep something so significant from me? I had so many questions but felt too overwhelmed to confront them again. My sister-in-law reached out to check on me. She offered her support and urged me to talk to my parents again, to get the full story. Despite my anger, I knew she was right. I needed to understand why they had kept this secret. When I finally sat down with my parents again, they told me everything. They explained that my biological parents were unable to care for me and that they had adopted me out of love and a desire to provide a stable home. They had always intended to tell me, but never found the right time. Their explanation did little to soothe my anger and hurt. I felt like I had been living a lie my whole life. But as the days passed, I began to see things from their perspective. They had made a difficult decision and kept the secret out of love and protection. During this time, my sister-in-law and brother were incredibly supportive. They listened to my fears and frustrations, helping me navigate the emotional turmoil. I also began seeing a therapist who helped me process my feelings and start to rebuild my sense of self. Knowing I was adopted brought up countless questions. Who were my biological parents? Why was I given up for adoption? These questions haunted me, and I felt an overwhelming need to find answers. With the support of my family, I decided to search for my biological parents. I felt a strong urge to understand my origins and the circumstances that led to my adoption. My sister-in-law, who had initially uncovered the secret, offered to help with the search. We started by combing through old records, birth certificates, and adoption papers. It was a daunting task, but we were determined to piece together the puzzle of my past. After weeks of searching, we found some promising leads. My biological parents were located in another state. The realization that I was so close to uncovering the truth filled me with a mix of excitement and fear. I decided to reach out to them, knowing this was a pivotal moment in my life. The day I finally met my biological parents was surreal. I didn't know what to expect or how they would react. When we met, the emotions were overwhelming. They explained their situation and the reasons behind their decision to give me up. They were young and unable to provide for a child, and they believed adoption was the best option. Their story was filled with regret and hope for my understanding. Meeting them was surreal. I felt a mix of connection and distance, but it was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. As I grappled with the truth, my emotions were all over the place. I felt angry at my parents for keeping this secret, yet I also understood their intentions. They wanted to protect me, but the secrecy only caused more pain. I spent countless hours in therapy, trying to process everything. My therapist helped me understand that my parents' decision, though flawed, came from a place of love. Slowly, I began to see things from a different perspective. During this period, my sister-in-law and brother remained pillars of support. They reassured me that I wasn't alone and that they would help me through this journey. Their support was invaluable, and I began to rebuild my relationship with my parents. After coming to terms with my adoption, I felt a strong urge to find my biological parents. I needed to understand my origins and why they had to give me up. With the help of my sister-in-law and brother, I started my search. We combed through old records, birth certificates, and adoption papers, piecing together the puzzle of my past. Finally, we found some promising leads. My biological parents were located in another state, and I decided to reach out to them. The anticipation was nerve-wracking, but I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The day I met my biological parents was filled with anxiety and excitement. I didn't know what to expect or how they would react. When I finally met them, the emotions were overwhelming. My biological parents explained their situation and the reasons behind their decision to give me up. They were young and unable to provide for a child, and they believed adoption was the best option. Their story was filled with regret and hope for my understanding. Meeting them was surreal. I felt a mix of connection and distance, but it was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. After meeting my biological parents, we began the process of building a relationship. We started with small steps, occasional visits and phone calls, slowly getting to know each other. At the same time, I worked on strengthening my bond with my adoptive parents. We had many heartfelt conversations, addressing past mistakes and finding a new balance in our relationship. Navigating these new relationships was challenging, but it also brought a sense of closure and peace. I was beginning to understand who I was and where I came from. Through my biological parents, I discovered that I had half-siblings. Reaching out to them added another layer to my complex family dynamics. Meeting my siblings was both exciting and intimidating. We started to build connections, sharing our lives and experiences. It felt strange yet wonderful to suddenly have new family members. My world expanded in ways I never imagined. After a long, emotional journey, I finally reached a place of forgiveness and acceptance. I forgave my adoptive parents for their secrecy, understanding their intentions. I also embraced my biological parents and siblings, integrating them into my life. This journey taught me the power of forgiveness and the importance of understanding. I realized that life is full of unexpected turns, and it's how we navigate them that defines us. Sharing my story has been therapeutic, and I hope it can offer hope and strength to others facing similar challenges. No matter how dark things get, there is always hope for a brighter future. Thank you all for your support and attention. Stay tuned for more as I continue to share my journey and the lessons I've learned.